Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, it's a great pleasure to join my dear brother, Dr. Khalid in this plenary session on regional security priorities. And it is, as always, a great honor for me to be amongst and learn from such distinguished company. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank my dear friends, Dr. John Chipman, not only for effectively leading IISS and this conference, but also for introducing us to fast power. Really, this is a term that we will live with for a long time. And also, Mr. Francois Heisberg, the chairman, and the rest of the IISS team for their central role in putting together what I'm sure will be another highly successful Manama dialogue. Dear friends, since its inauguration in 2004, the Manama dialogue has served as one of the most important forums for discussing global security issues, in particular those within the Middle East. The dialogue takes a special significance this year as the region has entered into one of its most complex, challenging, and exciting moments in several decades. And as ever, I welcome the opportunity to meet here in Manama to discuss some of the most pressing matters ahead of us. The region has been host to multiple crises and challenges of global significance, often occurring parallel to one another. Humanitarian catastrophes, territorial conflict, violent regime change, and a series of wars and internal conflicts. A great degree of these were a reflection of Cold War era politics on the regional space. But as the world transformed into a unipolar one, the Middle East continued to be characterized by a great and enduring instability. Perhaps one could argue this was the result of a balance of weakness, where no state or group of states could project any great degree of power over the entire region, and the regional institutions were often not empowered enough to effectively mitigate crises outside of diplomatic channels. The Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, was created within this climate of instability. Amidst the slow collapse of Arab nationalism, the Islamic Revolution in Iran and its war with Iraq, and the Soviet war in Afghanistan, it was ambitious in its design, with its founding thinkers and leaders envisioning a deeply intertwined regional system with a large standing army and a fully interlinked economy. Having only launched a common market in 2008, critics could come to the conclusion that 31 years since its founding, not much has been achieved. However, I would argue that it has been the slow and methodic pace with which we have tackled each issue that has enabled the Council to grow resilient, for trust to be built among members, and for the organization to be reflective of the concerns and goals of all its states rather than the designs of a few. This has been the key ingredient to the organization's success. The region, as it has always been, is not short of challenges. And as a result of each of them, we have pulled closer together as a GCC, with an understanding that successfully navigating through them is contingent on our close cooperation and a strategic vision for the future that is based on a concept of deeper integration. Dear friends, the challenges we face today are numerous, and each contain within them the ingredients to redefine the course of the region and have a global footprint well beyond the borders of the states in which they occur. First, the immediate repercussions of the events of the last 2 years, while without a doubt changing much of the regional dynamics in the long term, present the single most pressing short-term challenge. While countries that are in greater flux begin to renegotiate the relationship between government and citizens, as regional diplomats, we must allow them to define their own destiny as they find internal solutions to their own distinct problems. And we must integrate new governments as mutual stakeholders in stability, which respect the international agreements their country are signatory to. In this respect, we must recognize that some regional actors continue to look at these soft states as targets for expanding their spheres of influence. We must walk a fine, careful balance between respecting domestic processes while at the same time limiting these intolerant actors from steering the region towards an extreme course, not just within domestic political institutions, but at the state level. Where states have entered into large-scale protracted civil wars, the necessity to find immediate solutions to reduce suffering and build consensus amongst all actors is a priority. In Syria, the situation has grown ever more alarming at an exponential rate. I think everyone here has heard of the numerous deals that were offered to the Syrian regime to reform or leave. This was done not to set a precedent of protecting leaders who have so grossly crossed the line, but to stem the possibility of reaching the situation where we are in today, wherein a red line is crossed. The international community has limited ability to react, and the likelihood of a bloody conflict extending years into the future is a very real prospect. But today, we are well across this line, and the regional repercussions are being felt with greater intensity each day, with civil conflict in Lebanon and major refugee crises across the neighboring states, the worst affected of which is Jordan, a situation that has direct repercussions on the security of the Gulf states due to our deep interlinkages. As Syria quickly transforms into a pole for regional sectarian tension, it presents serious potential for blowback in the long term, which must be handled with great care. Regardless of the difficulty today, there are grounds for optimism, and I look forward to the coming Friends of Syria meeting in Marrakesh, which is set to take place in the next few days to help gather support for the Syrian National Coalition, who are we proud to have them with us here today. In countries which have taken the responsible path and initiated reforms, it is incumbent upon all actors to ensure the processes are inclusive, that all good efforts to dialogue are exhausted, and that the trajectory of change is reflective of the aspirations of all elements of society. In Bahrain, under the guidance of His Majesty, King Ahmed bin Isa al-Khalifa, our government embarked on a reform process at the turn of the century, premised on the spirit of pluralism and equality. Today, over a decade since, we have once again committed to this in word and action and have initiated a new stage of reforms, based upon the advice of all elements of Bahraini society and transparent reports by international experts. I can assure you that while our implementation may not be complete, we remain resolute in our principle to fully see the process through. And to be frank, I know of no other government that has ever managed, in such a short time frame, a track record of implementing an initiative as far-reaching as ours, which at once covers institutional reform, such as law enforcement agencies, to constitutional changes that greatly advance the very fabric of our social contract. This is particularly so in a region as challenging as ours. While some things do inevitably take time, make no mistake, we are committed, we have already achieved much, and we will continue to move forward. However, I must emphasize that domestic processes must be respected and given the opportunity to fully be seen through. Bahrain has always discovered domestic solutions for its respective issues. The success of this is clearly demonstrated in the fact that over the past decades, we have continued to be considered a regional leader in reforms, characterized not by our domestic issues, but how we have emerged from them. Our experience has taught us that foreign interference can and has only served to negatively set back these domestic processes. We already have all of the elements we need to solve our problems. An unwelcome foreign intervention polarizes people into extreme positions, making resolving our issues that much more difficult. Moving on to Iran. Its decision to continue to pursue a nuclear program with a lack of sufficient transparency is steering the region onto a dangerous collision course, presenting a real and immediate hard challenge to regional security. The threats are multitude here, and the government has done itself no favor by continuing to issue statements threatening vital international trade routes and the sovereignty of the GCC states. The seriousness of this threat cannot be overstated. While we wholly respect Iran's right to pursue a peaceful nuclear program in accordance with the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the very real potential of a covert development of WMDs as a central goal of Iran's ballistic missile enrichment program is a serious threat to the international community and one of existential proportions to the GCC. Since the 2003 war in Iraq, we have witnessed a rapid global expansion of the Revolutionary Guard's external action. The current path they are pursuing has led to a serious potential for a regional arms race and has provided new momentum to regional sectarian tensions and a general increase in terror activities. The threat of war is also looming, with frequent statements by Israeli authorities to this effect. We continue to stress that the only effective solution is a diplomatic solution. In this respect, while we appreciate the efforts of the US and the EU to tighten the sanctions regime, more should be done to bring all countries to the shared understanding that the long-term threat in this case is far more serious than short-term economic losses. In this light, the critical importance of the GCC role in preserving the free flow of trade and energy through the Straits of Hormuz is a priority that is increasing in significance in line with the threats by elements of the Iranian government to close it. This would not only be a gross violation of international law, but also cause serious economic harm across the globe. To mitigate this potential risk and others to international trade routes, the GCC and Bahrain in particular have created long-term agreements with international partners for naval basing in Bahrain, such as through the Combined Task Force, a multinational coalition, and the Fifth Fleet of the United States of America. For its part, Bahrain has continued to view itself not only as a stakeholder, but as a security partner. Alongside our participation in efforts to secure the Gulf of Aden and provide training in Afghanistan, we have also played a role in CTF 151 and CTF 152 operations, assuming command of role in 152 twice since 2008. Another significant challenge, which is one of dear concern, is the situation in Yemen. We must not forget that Yemen is not only our neighbor, but its citizens have for decades been living and working across all Gulf countries. They're part of our fabric here. And in this respect, the GCC is deeply invested in ensuring the best possible future as the Yemeni people deal with the country's respective and multiple problems. We have worked with our international and regional partners to achieve a successful transition in authority, to lower the potential for non-state and state actors to pull Yemen into further turmoil and extremism, and to provide a path for sustainable development through project-based assistance. We all hope that with these combined efforts, the future of the Yemeni people will be better. Looking further towards the future, I believe it is worth reiterating my comments from 2009, that when we discuss the notion of security, we must take a view well beyond military and state security, but widen the prism through which we view security issues. While Bahrain has made the pursuit of Vision 2030, which addresses human security, a domestic priority, and while other individual Gulf states have their own respective programs, the concept of human security should be firmly ingrained as a strategic priority for all our countries at a regional level. The basis of these goals should be a unified effort which holistically addresses the region's distinct challenges in a sustainable fashion. Be it reversing the rapid and devastating process of environmental degradation or building diversified knowledge economies with a long view to lowering our heavy dependence on fossil fuels. We must recognize that sustainability is not only a matter of necessity, but also a principal element of dignity. Food, water, and energy-related issues will likely intensify as populations continue to grow and energy prices fluctuate. The population in GCC countries as a whole is set to grow by roughly 2.6% annually through 2020, with a projected 53 million persons living in the GCC alone, and food imports constituting roughly 8% of imports. Worse yet, the GCC countries have some of the lowest levels of water per person in the world. While many member states have taken the initiative to establish bilateral agreements with countries to address these issues, the interconnected security risk across all GCC states means we must continue to look towards a GCC solution to mitigate what could potentially turn into a regional crisis. The Council's cooperation with ASEAN, for example, is of tremendous benefit to both sides, and the GCC and ASEAN members could greatly benefit from cooperative agreements on their path towards development and prosperity that addresses their mutual needs. In a similar vein, Africa offers vast opportunity for infrastructure development and support. But these are immediate fixes and do not effectively address our long-term needs. There is no reason we cannot build the regional capacity to research and develop our own solutions to our food, water, and energy limits. We have all the reasons and all the resources today to nurture the coming generations to think well beyond my own and pioneer homegrown solutions to these problems. Furthermore, at a time of great regional change, wherein many countries' participatory mechanisms are increasing, we have to collectively do our utmost to ensure the development of a firmer foundation of domestic and multilateral institutions that respect the rule of law and provide a bulwark against the rollback of rights where they already exist. Bahrain has pursued this process through the last decade and has initiated a program to rapidly build upon these achievements today by instituting firmer checks and balances on government bodies. We have also taken the initiative to present to the Arab League a recommendation to establish an Arab Court of Human Rights as a central prerogative towards achieving regional human security. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, for GCC states, the interconnected nature of these challenges and the fact that they affect all GCC states in a similar fashion indicates that the only effective solution are to be found in action that is from the onset strategically designed with a view towards deep cooperation. As all of you know, the GCC member states have a vested interest in ensuring the security and the stability of the Arabian Gulf and the wider region as a whole, and have continued to work with our regional and international partners towards ensuring this goal. As partners, we have jointly shouldered this responsibility. Today, the combined task force stands as a true testament to this shared understanding of mutual dependence. Parallel to this, we place great faith in the efforts of the United States of America to elevate its various bilateral security partnerships to a regional responsibility. A strong GCC is to the benefit of all our allies, be they in the United States, the European Union, NATO, India and Pakistan, ASEAN, or elsewhere. and we will provide the bedrock to regional security in the coming years. Thank you very much.